Boy, just wondering 301. How long did you spend on that one? I'm impressed. I've never seen someone so confidently wrong in my entire life. The number of things you had to leave out to think this comment was true. I mean, wow. Your dedication to liberalism is noted, sir. To believe anything that's in this comment, you one have to believe that supporting the Constitution of Canada is imperialism. You have to believe that Pierre is an imperialist. You have to believe that nobody, particularly Brian Mulroney in 84 and 88, won the elections with the overwhelming support of Alberta, which they didn't, and that Alberta is a capitalist province, which it also isn't. In fact, to believe anything in this comment at all, you have to believe that capitalist equals having a lot of oil money and voting conservative. And then you have to blame Pierre Poilievre for the boundaries on Carleton changing to involve more liberal voters. As if somehow that's Pierre Poilievre's fault. And then you have to blame the Conservative Party for picking a safe riding to make sure they could keep the leader they wanted. And then you have to ignore that Mark Carney ran in Nepean specifically because he was typically a liberal riding and was completely safe. I mean, he could have run in Edmonton, but I guess taking risks is something neither side likes to do when you don't have to. Now, I actually admire Just Wondering 301's spunk in writing this comment on a video that mentions that Pierre Poilievre just keeps winning. Because quite honestly, revisionist history takes like this are exactly why Pierre Poilievre keeps winning. And when he wins the prime ministership, he may never lose again, mostly because this is his competition. Welcome back to the Comic Reporter. It is May 7th, 2026. Oh boy, good thing I'm not here to make friends. I'm just here to take names and clown on the selectively informed opinions of the word warriors we lovingly call willingly pointless. Yes, there are Canadians, not just in Alberta, but I mean selectively so, who believe capitalism is when you have capital and vote conservative. That's, yeah, I believe that. Alberta still has universal health care. Alberta still has a welfare system. Your government is so heavily involved in the oil market that it moves prices for the entire country. Alberta heavily regulates everything, hands out subsidies like candy, and is 100% dependent on resource booms and busts to stay financially stable. And you call this capitalist? This country is so socialist that people actually think capitalism is just means the government giving you more money. It's incredibly wild. Let me explain something, especially for the less politically savvy people who may be questioning what I'm talking about right now. Especially for the what do we call them? Casual Alberta separatist in the back. Because your leaders already know this. Alberta is not capitalist. Alberta has money. Capitalist is a system designed to let the most capable among you get as rich as possible with as little government interference as possible. You make your money, pay your taxes, and the government mostly stays out of the way. Capitalism is the best system in the world because it works incredibly well for roughly the top 20%, which is way higher than most any other system in human history. But the other 80% still rely on socialist style safety nets to stay on the side of the dirt. Pure capitalism with no safety net leads to starvation and chaos for the bottom 80%. Pure socialism leads to serfdom for 90%, 5% of the population because the only way to get ahead is to sell yourself to the ruling class. It's mass death and misery either way. If Alberta separates, you don't suddenly get rich. The extra money doesn't vanish, it just flows to a different group of bureaucrats and insiders. Extra socialism is not capitalism. I mean, duh. There is no egalitarian capitalist utopia waiting for you, not in Alberta, not anywhere. Now, the biggest myth in Canadian politics right now that Pierre Poilievre is a bad leader because some MPs crossed the floor and this is unprecedented. Actually, it isn't. Stockwell Day in 2001 lost 13 MPs because they hated his leadership that much. John Diefenbaker lost half his cabinet, literally half his cabinet in 1963, and people still call him one of the greatest prime ministers of all time. What's actually unprecedented is the liberal majority being held together by floor crossers. The confident ignorance is just mind-blowing. Pierre Polyev flipped Carleton from liberal to conservative 4 times. He held it for 20 years. But apparently now he has to personally flip ridings where liberals get to hide in safe seats. That's insane. Apparently, it's a standard that only applies if you're liberal. Then you can run in liberal safe ridings all you want. But if you're conservative, well, if you can't make that dark red riding blue, you're a failure. And no, Alberta's overregulation isn't Ottawa's fault. A lot of it comes from provincial choices you willingly impose on yourselves. These people think Alberta separatism is a get rich quick scheme. If you stay, Ottawa gets rich. If you leave, some other government gets rich, and it still won't be you getting rich. Most disposable income just drives prices higher. So if the money does flow downhill, you can expect to say $10 for a sandwich instead of 5. That's how capitalism actually works. You'd need your own currency, your own debt, and you'd still have the same political habits. The streets still won't be paved with gold. You can't make this up. Seriously, pick a lane. Either engage with the reality or stay coping in YouTube comment sections because a video hurt your feelings. Now, for the record, I still think Alberta should take its chances as a self-governing country. I do. I mean, it would free up Ontario to have to take care of itself for once, like we did 15 years ago. I just don't think the people on the bottom tier of this separatism support realize that having more money doesn't mean being richer, unless that money only flows to 10% of the population, not everybody. That's actually the reason your 30,000 That's actually the reason your car is $30,000 and not 300,000. If everyone has more money, all they really have is the exact same amount of money they had before. It just feels better because the wad of cash is thicker. And you can ask China about that. You ask China about the $10,000 yen bill that still buys you a single pull on the slots. Or ask Dubai about what happens when everyone is rich. Once again, for the algo, Pierre Polyev just keeps winning. He wins in the economy debate, he wins in the capability debate, he wins in the party unity debate, he wins in the Canada First debate, he wins in the pro-family debate. He even wins in the every conservative riding in Canada would love to have Pierre Polyev as their MP debate. In fact, I would say that the only reason the liberal bots hate Pierre is because he's not a liberal. If he was a liberal, he'd be prime minister right now. Just hear me out. Maybe Pierre Polyev should cross the floor. I mean, what kind of existential crisis would that drive for the liberal base? Huh? No more security clearance problem, no more imperialist problem, no more MAGA accusations. I guarantee you that every single criticism of Pierre would completely disappear overnight if he just changed his tie. That's the measurement, by the way. The conservatives don't want your leader, liberals. But if our leader crossed the floor, you'd be over the moon with delight. But that's because winning on a socialist platform is what the liberals do. But the reality is that they're just as opportunistic and capitalist as any conservative could ever hope to be. The reality of politics is that it isn't based on social dynamics beyond the marketing of the campaign used to convince voters that politics is based on social dynamics. No. Political parties are simply a group of smart people getting together to pursue a mutually agreed upon goal. What they are also able to accomplish while pursuing that goal. What they are also able to accomplish while pursuing that goal is the measure of success. Floor crossers? Not a big deal. These people had goals, and they weren't married to the tie color or the long-term goals of the conservatives. The only one married to the tie color, well, not all of them, but mostly the people married to the tie color are the voters. Marilyn Gladue already admitted that there was an exchange of resources, so to speak. I'm just saying. There was an exchange of resources for loyalty. We call that bribery. And there's nothing a leader can do to fix that. You can't fix someone who can be bought. Over time, those MPs would have become bigger liabilities anyways. The majority is a big deal, but losing the ridings? No, not a big deal, not even in the least. The people in those ridings are angry, and they should be. The people in other ridings are angry, and they should be. But the MPs? No. They weren't aligned with either party. They just went to the highest bidder. And you know what? That's actually fine. It's fine. Listen, the Conservative Party is far more unified than it's ever been. The MPs have now witnessed the blowback of floor crossings, and they want to continue their political careers, so they're not going to cross. The Liberal Party is starting to look like a little unstable. The Liberal Party is starting to look a little unstable, it's a little shaky. Majority is starting to feel like a bit of a paper tiger. It's only a matter of time until some of them start grumbling a little bit. They don't like the way the majority was formed. They don't like the rules that are coming out. They don't like the bills they're putting forward. They don't think they're going in the right direction. And that's not restricted to one side of the aisle. That's both. That's bad news. Mark Carney better have a lot of money to throw at those Liberal MPs because this ain't going to last long. I mean, will some damage be done? Yes. But as much as I don't like the politicians, I fully believe there are great Canadians on both sides who don't feel great about anything that's happening right now, no matter what color they're wearing. And Pierre just keeps being proven to be right over and over and over and over again. He just keeps winning. Yeah, and the Conservatives won't change their leader. Why should they? He's handled this with far more principle and character than anyone criticizing them has ever handled in anything in their life. You guys couldn't even handle a YouTube video. What makes you think you can tell one of the most powerful men in Canada what to do?